Today, John lives in Houston, Texas with his wife, Hope, and their 5 children. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Hennessey.
Thank you. This is beyond an honor to be here with you guys, and we got the kind invitation from y'all. Gosh, maybe a year ago. We weren't able to do it because of some sort of turmoil in Washington D.C. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with y'all. And I think I was requested to talk about safety. When I first got this, I thought, what am I going to teach NASA about safety? I mean, you guys have probably forgotten more about safety than I'll ever know. So I want to talk about a couple things today. I do want to talk about safety, but I also want to talk about just kind of my journey starting out in the 60s as kind of a space geek. And so we'll do safety first, then we'll talk about the personal stuff next. To be honest with you guys, I did not really have much of a safety mindset up till maybe 5 years ago. So of course we're going to go test a car. We're at the races. We own a racetrack, so we try to cover the basics. But we just started working with the people from Shell Pennzoil here in town. I don't know if you guys remember, they had the IndyCar race at the NRG maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so we're at the Shell event, and we're at this IndyCar race. I've been to plenty of races, and I'm seeing all these signs that says, make sure you use the handrail, like on the stairwells and stuff. And I'm like, if I touch the handrail, I'm gonna get somebody else's germs, and I might get sick from that. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that safety idea. So we're getting ready to go out on the stage, and I'm standing next to these 2 Shell executives, and I just said, hey, what's the deal with like holding on to the handrail? And they both looked at me like, we take safety pretty seriously. And we have thousands of employees, and last year we had 6 people got hurt. We really believe nobody should get hurt. And that was really the first time I really kind of stopped and thought about, okay, we want to be safe in whatever we're doing with fast cars, coming out here to Ellington and testing cars and whatnot. But it really kind of began my first thinking that safety is not just something that we have a meeting about or we talk about. It's really more of a mindset. And it's kind of it was a culture shift for me. It was a culture shift for our company. And as the parent of 5 kids, 4 of which who are pretty adventurous, plus son-in-law, we know what happens when people just are having a little too much fun and get going. So anyway, so that was a big shift for us. And so now we've been again working with the folks at Shell for, gosh, over 5 years now. And we actually have safety meetings now. We talk about it, and it's become kind of a part of our culture. And so I could probably tell you some stories about things that we did that worked out, but they could have gone the other way because, again, we didn't know what we didn't know back in the day, and just enthusiasts and racing and whatnot. But safety is it's the first and foremost thing that we do every day when we go to work. And so, again, I know you guys are kicking off your year. Whether you're flying the jets or astronauts or, the mechanic in the back who's, changed the oil in the pickup truck. I mean, the safety mindset is, again, something that we're trying to make a part of our culture every day at work. And that's, as far as the safety talk goes, that's about all I've got on that one. But what I really want to talk to you guys about is large in part why I think that our company exists and why I'm here. So I'll just tell you my personal story. Grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. Kid back in the 60s. Was a big, was following NASA and the astronauts and the Apollo program back when I was a kid. And it inspired me. I mean, Neil Armstrong was my hero kind of growing up. And I forgot that I had the scrapbook. My son found my old scrapbook where I had articles, clip-outs from the newspaper from, landing on the moon. And then this last year with the 50th anniversary, that was obviously very, very special. So kind of like, as a kid, gosh, I'd like to be an astronaut, or I'd like to be, a naval aviator. And as I'm growing up and not really realizing that I'm majorly ADHD, they didn't have a diagnosis for that back in the day. So I'm the guy looking out the window and daydreaming, when everybody else is, focused on school. And so my grades probably didn't reflect my potential, but as I got through high school and did a little bit of college, I always had this passion for speed and performance. And I thought, well, maybe I won't become an astronaut, or maybe I don't have the degree to become a fighter pilot or something like that. But I always felt like I was destined to do something with speed and performance. And so in 1991, I learned the first rule in car racing. The first rule is if you want to make a small fortune in car racing, you start with a larger fortune. And as I'm racing and going to races and working on my race car, I'm watching my bank balance kind of going south. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to be able to continue to do the car racing program, I got to find a way for this thing to pay for itself and monetize it. So 1991, we started our business. And that journey, again, we're almost 29 years into that program now, honey, right? By the way, my lovely wife, Hope here, we were dating back then, and I had a race car with a roll cage in it. And if you've ever tried to get into like a race car with a roll cage, it's trying to like get in that little Soyuz space capsule over there at NASA. That thing's so tiny and cramped. And when I knew that she got into my race car and would kind of pretzel in through the bars and get in there and she'd never complain about it, I thought, I need to marry her. But anyway, just wanted to kind of share that. So if you get a girl that, will get in your race car through the roll cage, then better put a ring on that finger and lock it down. Anyway, my experience. So where was I? So we've got this car business, and we're building cars and going faster and progressively pushing the envelope wherever we have the opportunity. In 2005, Road and Track Magazine did a car test at a runway out in Central California, Lemoore Naval Air Station, where a lot of the F-18s are based. And we got a chance to go out there, and they said, we want to do a test to see what car can go from 0 to 200 miles per hour in the shortest amount of time. And I said, okay, well, we've got a twin-turbo Viper. We call it the Venom 1000, and we feel like it can do pretty well. And so they said, well, great, there's going to be a Bugatti Veyron there. And we're like, okay, we'd like to really put a beat down on the French/German guys. And so went out and did that test, won the test, got first place, beat the Bugatti. We're on the cover of the magazine, really good for business, but we're kind of the mindset of like, okay, if we've done that, what's the next mountain to climb? And so we started thinking about, gosh, we can add more horsepower, we can lighten the weight of the vehicle, but we want something we can add a lot more horsepower, but we wanted something really radically lighter. So we joked about taking a Lotus and taking the little 4-cylinder engine out of the back and putting our big twin-turbo 1,000-plus horsepower V10 in that. And so we rendered it up, we did a sketch, and we came up with this idea of a car that we named the Venom GT. Well, that's a long story to itself, but basically we had this little car, this Lotus that we didn't end up going with the Viper engine, we ended up with a twin-turbo V8 with 1,000-plus horsepower and about a 2,700-pound car. And our goal was to be the fastest in the world. So we'd already beat Bugatti in the 0 to 200 game with our Viper. We thought, okay, we really want to put it on them and go out and beat their top speed record, which back then was 253, 254 mile an hour. While we were preparing our car, they had a special edition that came out that went 267. We thought, okay, that's the number to beat. And so as we're testing our car, the wonderful folks here at the at Ellington Airport, Sean Chittum, who used to work here, I think he's in Tulsa now, was very kind and would let us come out here and test on the 422 runway. I don't know if any of you guys ever saw us out there with our Venom GT. So we set a world record for Guinness World Record for 0 to 300 kilometers, which is 186. We set that on the 422. That still stands today, as far as I know. But the big bogey for us was to beat the Bugatti 267 mile an hour record. So we could only, 8,000 foot out here, we could only go, I don't know, we could run probably 230, 240 on the 422. We needed more room to run. Lemoore was a great runway, was 2.9, but the longest runway that we could actually get into was at the shuttle landing facility down in Florida. And thankfully, I think there was a Space Act agreement, they decommissioned the runway, and now all of a sudden car guys like us could go out and test our cars out there. So we had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get it done. We went down there, this is a real cool story. So we went down there in January of 2014. We'd only reserved the runway for one day,
And when we got down there, it rained. By the time the runway dried up, we got out. We went like 240, 245 on a shakedown run, and it was the end of the day. And I went back to the guy that was working with NASA. I'm like, "Oh, we rent the runway tomorrow?" They're like, "Nope, it's all booked up for another month." I'm like, "Okay, we'll come back and we'll rent it for a couple of days, and that way, if we've got weather, we can adjust for that." And so I'll never forget leaving the Kennedy Space Center and pulling out of the gate, and it's dark, and I'm, over there they have like the park that has the rockets and stuff, and when I'm looking at those, they're all lit up, and my wife calls me, says, "How'd it go?" And I'm like, "Well, we didn't get to make a full run." And she's like, "Were you just disappointed?" And I'll never forget, I'm looking at the rockets, and I said, "No, I kind of feel like I'm on hallowed ground." I'm like, this is a place where Gus Grissom and the Apollo guys and many of y'all previously and in days to come, American patriots that have done really brave, amazing things that have inspired me, that got me here to this point. So I'm like, no, I feel like we're going to come back here and we're going to nail this record. And so a week later, you were out of town. My wife was out of town, and I took the kids to church. And after church, the kids were eating Pappas Burger over in Westheimer, and the kids said, "Same question, Dad, are you disappointed?" And I said, no, I'm not really disappointed, because I think we're going to go back and break the record. But I said, I remember, I think President Kennedy gave this speech, and he said the words, something to the effect of, "We don't do these things because they're easy, we do it because they're hard," meaning that the trials and tribulations that we go through in making our car go faster, the things that you guys have gone through for the last 60 years, push the envelope in a safe way. But if we're being real, if we're really trying to push the envelope, sometimes we're going to have to hang it out there. And I'm like, no, we're going to go out there and break the record. And I said, as a matter of fact, I'm going to see if I can find that video on YouTube when Kennedy gave the speech at Rice University, 1961, I think. And so I found that video, and I sent that to my team and the company that was preparing the car to go back to Kennedy to see if we could beat the Bugatti record. And so I sent that to our team and said, watch this, and maybe this gives you some inspiration while you're preparing the car to go back down to NASA. So that's where it leads to this video.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal?
So thank you guys, thank you NASA. The kid from Kansas City who's following the astronauts and looking up to Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and all the great heroes and all what you guys have done from then through the shuttle to what you guys have been doing, preparing for the next great things for NASA. Thanks for inspiring us and leading the way. And thanks for being an inspiration to us from encouraging us for our safety mindset and our safety culture. So we wish you guys a really safe and prosperous and successful year, and really looking forward to seeing the amazing things that y'all are doing together to further our efforts to do cool new things in space. So thank you guys. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
So that was so cool.
Why would you drive a stock one when you can drive this?